club reading a couple of months ago was on Ikigai, which talks about, the secrets of long life. That a few areas in Japan have figured it out, where people live to many years, over 100 plus. And one of the things that actually comes out is the social interactions, that they go into these groupings where they support each other. They have groupings where people support each other. So if you're financially down, you have a safe space, a safe group where you can pull each other up. When somebody's a bit down, you pull each other up. And these are important conversations we need to bring back to our young people as we speak. The creation of a safe space. A lot of women have sort of figured this thing out. Women are good at, having social groupings where they can support each other. Some of our churches...
Wait, are you saying men are not good at having social
I just
groupings?
Gave an example.
Well, maybe she can tell us, are they?
Actually, I have seen a group of men who have formed, a bond which is a safe space for themselves. And it's beautiful, because then they support each other. And when somebody is down, you pull each other. You pull each other up. I think these are very important conversations we must have today and push for such. Remember when we were growing up, and, for those of us who are older in the African system, you were always in a group of, what do you call them? In an age group. You grew up in an age group, and you went through different stages of life together. You were mentored, and you had people looking out for you. And then, it was kind of defined then which way you're going. Now we're in a world that is super evolving fast. We are barely coping. And in Africa, like I always say, we are leapfrogging, because we are sort of trying to catch up with the West. Because of all the social media connectivity, we are seeing what's happening in the West. We want to catch up with the West. But at the same time, tumeacha mila zetu. So what are we becoming? Mwacha mila, we are now beginning to float around without being rooted. And that is one of the reasons, I think, why our society is struggling so much with mental illness, because we are not rooted. We've forgotten the things that make us solid and grounded. And then we have lost this social connectivity, which is also affecting our family unit, the base at which, we draw strength from, and growth.
Do we see this? And I think this is one of the, we've seen that question also pop up this morning. And that, because if we do look at the statistics, whether it's worldwide or the few statistics that we have here in Kenya, that more men tend to commit and succeed at suicide than women. Why is that? And is that what you've seen as well?
Well, there's an element of truth there, or based on the statistics that have been out there, that there's a high number of men who may commit suicide in comparison to women. But I'd explain it this way. I think women, you're right in saying, women have social support of sorts. Women easily destroy each other, but women don't hold back from sharing their most intimate struggles with each other. So they are very open and very vulnerable. The only problem is, on the flip side, they easily use that against each other. But you see, sometimes I say, when we hold back from sharing ourselves because of shame, because of fear of being judged, we are at a higher risk than someone who shares, are ashamed, but they get the help. You get? So sometimes I think women, yes, have an easier time handling shame. The place of a man in society is very prideful and he needs to look strong. There are all these narratives we've built around the men. You need to look strong. You need to look like you have it all together. You need to look like you're in control. You need to look like you're domineering. You need to give us a sense of direction, among other things. So what happens is, because of all those narratives that the men then have to live up to, and I don't even think I cover them in their entirety, then they're less likely to ask for help when they need it. They have less intimate conversations with each other. I think when men meet, would you ever tell a gentleman, yesterday I slept hungry. Yes. Yeah.
Or yesterday, my wife clobbered me with a sufuria.
That's the thing. Would you tell men that? When you're seated with them anywhere?
Why on earth would I tell them such a thing?
That's the thing. That's the thing. So you see, what we think, and unfortunately, we like men for being in control. But being in control sets up men.
But are they really in control? This control that men are supposed to have. Well, speaking of, are we really in control? And what does that control mean? In essence, we think we're in control.
That's the thing.
And most African women, in their wisdom, make the African men think they're in control.
Yeah, true.
They understand it very, very well.
Yeah.
So, and why do you need to be in control?
You're right.
As we look at prevention and also look at awareness of this, a lot of times we hear, I mean, we read a number of things in terms of when somebody says something, it could possibly be a cry for help, and how seriously should you take those cries for help. I remember one of my closest friends did actually cry for help, and he said he was going to take his own life, and we all kind of thought like, okay, well, maybe there's an overwhelming situation. He did take his own life. He did succeed. It haunts me to this day because I think, well, if we had thought about it a little bit more seriously, perhaps we could have then been able to, have a chat with him. So when somebody says something like that, what should you do? How should you rally support? At that point, is it a cry for help or is it crying wolf? What is it?
Well, you're better off taking precaution than being careless at the expense of someone's life. So in therapy, we never say there's no one you should. Anytime someone cries out for help, take them seriously. Take them seriously. Interrogate what is going on first before you can decide. They're just crying wolf.
But then there's something again about this modern society in which we live in. People don't seem to be very concerned genuinely about other people's problems. They don't actually want to know or even forget. Let's start with hear. They may want to hear, but they don't really want to know.
That's true.
Not really.
Yeah.
They prefer to associate with people who are not going to tell them their problems or people who they believe don't have problems. That they're comfortable with. But they are very uncomfortable with grappling with issues, especially personal issues of... Let's talk about men. Most men would prefer to pay lip service to it. No, Paul, have a drink. And that's done. So now, even when we talk about the norms where people are supposed to share and people are supposed to be able to understand that this sharing is part of your wellness, with all these competing interests that we have in modern life, this part of our evolution, and all of them competing for space. This space where you arrive at, for lack of a better expression, self-realization and understanding of what you need to do, it takes a backseat. Because everything else seems to be of importance and has an immediacy to it that calls for your attention every single day and every moment. Yes.
I think culturally, we don't support... Culturally, sharing problems is found to be like complaining. It's perceived as complaining. You're getting lacking gratitude, not having a focus. So that also is something that can feed into the people not sharing whatever issues they may have in the situation they are in. You're getting, because when they share, what am I supposed to do with it? You're sharing with me so that I do what with it? Then something else is, we are also not built to handle people's emotions. I mean, when we go for funerals, you've lost a loved one. Be strong, be strong. What am I doing? I don't know what to do with your tears, so I need you to stop crying. The only way I know to help you stop crying is to remind you, this is God's will. You just be strong, be strong. Yeah, you'll be fine. God knows, God's will has been done.
All will be well.
All will be well. It's because I don't know what to do with your emotions. If I came here and just broke down and started crying, that's the thing.
Yeah,
what do you do with
like, okay,
exactly?
so, yeah.
What do you do with?
We'd give you water to drink.
That's the thing, and possibly tell, do you need a minute?
Yeah.
Do you need a bathroom break? So you need to push me out of your space as fast as possible
to make
so
you
that
more
God
comfortable.
to make actually it's not me you're trying to make.
Me who is pushing you away. It's for me to be more comfortable than you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're looking at your own need. You're not factoring in my need. So even when you're offering someone a drink, they tell you, I'm going through this. I here. Kunywa moja. Basically, you're dealing with your need. I don't know what to do with you, so let me do something that I think you need so that you get out of my space.
So how can you help somebody who's suicidal? What can you do? What can we do? Because, for example, somebody's not going to walk up to you and say, well, Sylvia, today I think I'm going to kill myself. No, probably you would have heard other things that they would have said before that that would then end up in that, thought. How can we help? What do we hear that we need to act on?
Actually, everything we hear, most of the things or everything we hear, we need to act on. I say people need to start paying attention a little more. But I can't pay attention to you if I can't pay attention to myself. If I'm floating through life, I will float through your life. So there's an element of self. We need to go back to that place where there's an element of self-discovery and self-acceptance. When I am accepting of myself, I'll easily hear you when you talk to me. When I'm not accepting of myself or not comfortable in my own skin, when you bring me problems, I'll be uncomfortable with the problems you're bringing me, and I need to push them back because they don't align with who I am becoming. So I'd say it's not necessarily one specific thing that we can do, one particular thing that would automatically address everything. Even the conversation we are having here today creates awareness. It gives someone one particular thing to think about that they can do something about. Another thing that goes beyond that is people need to become more and more self-aware. Because when we become more and more self-aware, we become more self-accepting and therefore can practice self-compassion. When we can practice self-compassion, when I tell you, you say, "Good morning, Edna." I'll say, "Well, I'm not sure it's a good morning." You'll hear me. Because that happens a lot and we don't hear people. We really don't hear people. Because I'm expecting you, generically or socially, I just expect you to just say, "Good morning, good morning." And even if you didn't say good morning back, I didn't hear that part. Because my expectation, I go with my expectation. I don't go with what you said. So we need to be more and more present to what each of us is saying. But then we also need to learn to be true friends with each other. I always say the people who hurt people have their own hearts. Deal with your heart so that you stop hurting the people around you. Then you can effectively help even the people in your space. But for as long as we have more and more people hurting and then they're not aware of the pain they're going through, then they cause pain in return. And therefore, they are unable to avail themselves. I don't have extra. Where do I get the extra bandwidth to support you when I am in pain myself? Does that make sense? So sometimes I also don't blame people for not hearing because we are all lost in our own stories. But then it helps to deal with my own story or clarify my own story so that I can hear you when you talk to me. We really need to go back to, and it goes back to the social support. Social support is a significant protective factor for all mental health issues. Just having that one person you can tell, "I don't want to talk, I just want to walk. Can you walk with me?" But the people don't realize the magic of that. But then again, we're also dealing with poverty. So there are people who will be thinking, okay, I feel like this, but everyone is chasing the next big shilling. So where am I supposed to be getting this person who I will sit down with and talk with and walk with? You know, there are many factors that would prevent that, but as much as possible, we can use what is quickly within our reach. And that starts with just beginning to listen to each other, genuinely and sincerely. When somebody tells you, "I'm thinking of killing myself," please take them seriously. Interrogate why. The sad thing about suicide is it is truly preventable.
Do you stay? Because oftentimes you hear as well that somebody in that position would be classified as what you may want to call stubborn in resolve. That they say, "Leave me alone, this is it." Do you keep coming back until there's a break? What do you do?
Actually, you do. And I don't think they don't all behave the same way. Not all of them will dismiss. Can we prevent all suicides? Maybe not. I don't think we can ever get to a place where we can say we can prevent suicides 100% because there are different factors that would predispose someone to this. The snap suicide, you cannot say because you don't know what someone will encounter that would push them to that. However, can we prevent most of them? Yes, we can. So the idea is as much as possible, do your best. In the place you are, do your best. If somebody tells you, if they're behaving in a manner likely to suggest they're thinking of harming themselves, that also comes with just self-harm. You notice somebody with marks, weird marks around their body. They're burning their body, they're scratching themselves with things, they're inserting things in their body and things like that. Those could also be telltale signs. There are many things to look out for that would tell you, please pay attention to the people around your space. But then it's also easy to pay attention when this person is connected to you. If you're alone or you're walking through life alone, nobody will see. Therefore, that also puts you at risk. If you live alone, you have no friends, you don't interact with anybody, then it means even when you think about suicide, there'll be no one to quickly notice, we need to pay attention to so-and-so and help in the place that they are,
Is it still illegal in Kenya? And I'm thinking that we're already dealing with very difficult situation. And if somebody attempts suicide and fails, they've committed a crime against the state. How do you deal with that, and why should it be an issue of the law and illegality? Should it be?
Well, the jury is out. People have different perspectives on that, and the law itself contradicts itself, because there's a right to life of dignity, there's a right to health, there's a right to, you should not be discriminated against, isn't it? Among other things, you should receive the best care when you're struggling with, that's part of, those are part of our rights. But then when you say you arrest somebody who's attempted suicide, then it goes against those rights. So even the law has aspects where it contradicts itself. However, law supersedes everything. We cannot really, we can challenge it, we can question it, we can do our best, and lawmakers can actually do their best to try and see if they can push to have those aspects of law change. But yes, indeed, currently it's still very illegal to commit suicide. If you attempt suicide and you're caught, yes, you will be arrested, and yes, you do serve a 2-year term, I think, or you pay a fine because of that. So it's punishing you. Now, the argument we have as psychologists is, or even people in the mental health space is, you're punishing me for not being mentally well. You get? And that in itself is a problem. And those are some of the arguments that we are trying to push to the best of our ability to just see if we can have that law reviewed.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say is the mental health situation in Kenya? 1 being it's very good, 10 being it's,
I'd say 5 or
so
even 3.
We're not doing too well, are we?
No, I don't think we're doing too well. And if I was to look at that, we think mental health is only about the mental health disorders. But then we have mental health issues that come before the disorders. And those are the everyday stressors that we deal with. Everyday stressors that affect the way we feel about ourselves.
When now this environment and ecosystem thing come into play.
Exactly.
So if cost of living is high, I'm very likely to be mentally stabilized.
Financial issues are actually a mental health issue. Yes. Yeah. So if the cost of living on its own, isn't it costing? Is it making you have sleepless nights? Is it affecting your ability to eat? Is it affecting your relationships? Is it affecting your ability to function? Are you able to concentrate as you should at the workplace? For as long as those things are checked off, then you're struggling with your mental health so in that regard.
MP lies more than the neighboring constituency's MP. That is also a problem.
Well, it depends also on how important it is to you. You're right. It depends on how invested you are in that, or how important it is to you. Because if you're very invested in your MP and you feel their lying is directly impacting you, and it can, there are those who are closely allied to them, so it can really affect them.
Why I bring this? Because essentially we're saying that relationships and how we relate to people are often at the center of everything that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So when you have a situation like what I see in Kenya, not as evolving, but continuing to evolve in this very direction, where we quantify people, we quantify the things your net worth is considered to be your net value. Okay. And so we relate to you according to that quantification. So that aspect of relationship is likely to have a snowballing effect, which in turn will ensure that this situation we are speaking about will actually get worse.
It's highly likely, actually, because we focus on all the wrong things and forget your social worth is of greater value than your net worth. Actually, your social worth, you can have people carry you through the worst seasons, but your money can't always do everything for you.
Indeed,
that's true. It can't do everything for you, but people can carry
Kenyans more and more believing that your money can do everything for you.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. But I also think that's also because of the models we have. It looks like the people who've made it in our villages are just the ones who had money. The people who make something of them are just the ones who have. It looks like. Our definition of making it or success is the problem. I'd think of it that way. Because if we were to define success with the kind of successful relationships we have, there's more longevity
in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
The mental health conversation in this country is one that one would hope would have been gripped a little bit more seriously, even as we come to the end of this conversation. What are we hoping will be front and center when it comes to dealing with mental health? Suicide now being one of those factors under mental health generally. We're seeing some movement, some conversations, but should it be treated as a national disaster as was prescribed a couple of years ago?
Well, I think so. I think mental health issues should be given a lot of attention and be treated, especially because they're preventable. So when they keep impacting lives and affecting and taking away, affect quality of life, affect society, affect perception, encourage, when we talk about a happy society, I mean, mental health issues are the reasons why we don't experience happiness in our society, if you think about it, So yes, indeed, that is something that needs to be paid attention to. Yes, indeed. If it is possible to declare, to think of it as a real disaster or a national disaster that we need to put more focus and resources on, I think that's something that should be done so that everybody gets help. Because the flip side of it is, if we don't pay attention to it, only those who have resources
will get
to access the help.
Yeah. How can people access you? I think is a question that has also come today. If somebody needed to reach out and speak to you, Edna, how can they do that?
Okay. So I do consult for Minet. So one of the ways to reach me would be through Minet. I know that is possible. But then beyond that is through social media as well. Yeah, you look for Edna Chawia. You will find me. I'd like to believe I'm the only one out there.
And you will respond.
Yes, and I will respond.
Maybe I can just give a take home that I've taken from you today. Is the issue of self-awareness. And because, a lot of mental health issues they start at a young age. In fact, they say from the age of 13, 14 is when mental health issues begin. So my take home is that this conversation on self-awareness and emotional intelligence needs to happen to that demographic. I think our high schools and our campus needs to emphasize on self-awareness and emotional intelligence amongst our youth.
Very, very true, because it will help with self-regulation. If you can master the self, you can take charge of the world.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Edna Chawia,